Peace, everybody. Peace, peace, peace. So, this is just an observation. I don't know if anyone remembers Gordon Cooper. A few years back, there was a show on Discovery called Cooper's Treasure, where these treasure hunters, father and son, the father worked with Gordon, trying to find these old treasures, these sunken ships in the ocean. Now let's back up a second. Gordon Cooper was an astronaut, all right, and he did a mission for President Kennedy, and this seems to be connected to what just went on on the East Coast here with the storms. This is just me putting pieces together. It's all entertainment. So Cooper was, what he did was he went and orbited the Earth, and he was marking off certain areas. We were to believe, and I'm not saying he wasn't doing that as well, to find where the Russians were keeping, if they could see where they were keeping, their weapons, we'll put it that way. And then hearing that lady in Kentucky talk about Kennedy signing that bill, and then that flood happening, then back in the 60s, this all connects of what he was doing. They were they had equipment to monitor what was in our land. Clearly these mountain ranges are connected to dragons, crystal, other stuff. We're just gonna leave it that way. You all know, y'all been paying attention. And it brought me right back to Gordon Cooper and what he was doing. And I'm sure if there was more research put into it, we'd find these areas that he marked off on his orbit, around Earth. Because as he was doing that, he was also marking off where he was seeing where not ancient, but where treasure ships had sank, from hundreds of years ago. And he was marking those off as well, where there was gold. It's all connected to the gold. Treasure hunting. Treasure comes in many shapes and sizes. Land grabs, crystals, other things connected to Atlantis. So Gordon Cooper's mission for President JFK was Mercury, Atlas, and we just had Atlas in the sky, also known as Faith 7, which took place on May 15th and 16th in 1963. These numbers are important as well. Mission Cooper piloted the Faith 7 spacecraft on a 22-orbit mission around Earth, completing the final crewed flight on Project Mercury. That was marking off certain areas on the lands. It lasted 34 hours and 20 minutes, logging 222 hours in space. So I'm going to look into this here. I'm going to do Cooper's Treasure. Okay, so it goes into this. Gordon Cooper, a NASA astronaut in the 1960s, believed to discover a treasure map of sunken ships off the Caribbean. Cooper took photos of over 100 anomalies while on the mission, which he believed were shipwrecks, including Christopher Columbus' Lost Fleet. He kept the discovery a secret until his deathbed, leaving the map and associated files to his close friend, treasure hunter Darrell Miklos. Miklos and his team also set out to find the shipwrecks, beginning with a target in Campeche, Mexico. And we're having storms coming from that area too. This is interesting. They have found shipwrecks material at each of the first and 5 anomalies Cooper listed. The series Cooper Treasure follows Miklos and his team as they search the treasure. And it goes into, like, when they do this, it went into, like, what his mission really was. And, you know, unbeknownst to so many, they would have just believed that. And then here we are today, seeing all these storms, how they're being targeted, where they're being targeted, is definitely connected to what he and JFK were doing at the time. Clearly, JFK came across something that he was going to expose. That's why, you know, he disappeared. Let's put it that way. He disappeared. But Daryl Miklos, he goes into, like, what when he was orbiting the Earth, where he was marking off areas. They had certain radar, if you will, to scan the lands for what we're calling now land grabs. And this was at the same time this happened. This guy was doing this when he finished. Now hearing that lady's video from Kentucky, the flooding that happened there for land grab. So there's no coincidence. This is totally connected to this guy, this astronaut. Because again, treasure comes in all different shapes and sizes, and there's a lot going on underneath in the mountains. There's a lot going on. Most society has no idea. And even some of us who have an idea, we still have not an idea because it's dark ops stuff. You know, I mean, like I said, go check out the Orion lines. Understand, you know, everywhere we walk, there's underground tunnels. You know, LA, California, all underground. Over in Paris, you know, they have the catacombs. It's all tunnels going back and forth. Even people in Hollywood, they use the tunnels to go to these award shows. You know, it's very modernized, if you will, these tunnels. So, and they've been building them for decades and decades and decades. And this guy was marking off certain areas where they're now land grabbing, where they were then land grabbing. So I want to look up that too. Kentucky flooding back in the 60s. I'm going to go with in the 60s when JFK was president. JFK was president. Flood relief measures. The flood of 57. Southeastern Kentucky. Wow, okay. And West Virginia. So he signs off on it and then he cuts a ribbon. I don't even know how these people could live with themselves. And remember, Eisenhower had a meeting with the Greys or the Zeta Reticuli, whichever group. And ever since then, everything's changed here as well. And it has. It was either for humanity to be more enlightened and learn how to do that, and or control. And Eisenhower, I don't know how he could sign treaties over our souls and stuff like that, but you know, this is why people have experienced abductions, things like that, because of Eisenhower. And that's been documented too. Even in his speech, you know, when he was leaving the office, you know, when he left office, his term was up. His speech was very telling if you could read in between the lines and not in between the lines. So, this is the Kentucky flood then. It's a dragon. I mean, these are dragons that were on. Devastating floods occurred across southeastern Kentucky, southwestern West Virginia, and northeast Tennessee in late January and February. What a time to do that to somebody. In eastern Kentucky, the headwaters of the Big Sandy, Kentucky, and Cumberland rivers were especially hit hard. In fact, 1957 flood remains the flood of record at several points of Lavisa Fork and the Big Sandy, the north, middle, and south forks of Kentucky River, and on the upper reaches of the Cumberland River. Impacts from the floods were major. Water rises occurred so fast that many residents had to evacuate without their belongings. Communications were disrupted and food shortages developed as a result of damage to stores. Water supplies were contaminated in some locations and there was no gas for cooking. Reports indicated that 30 states and federal highways were blocked by the floodwaters or mudslides, and most secondary roads were impassable due to the heavy rains. In Kentucky alone, 9 people, I'm sure there was more than 9. The Red Cross reported 597 homes were destroyed, over 10,000 structures. That's deliberate. And they're not even giving you the full truth on this. This is just a sliver. It's a sliver. You can listen to the people that live there because they know, they experienced it, or their ancestors did, This is all land grab, and they're going to continue to do it. And they're going to continue to do it. And these people on here, on this platform, they know what's up too. And they do. And they got you convinced it's something. I'm not saying these other things aren't here, but they know the truth. They know the truth. Why do you think one of them, and a lot of you know one of them, or know of, why do you think he left the East Coast? He did a huge fundraiser, and it's like weird to me how many people donated so this guy could have a freaking camper, and you got other people out there with real problems going on that could really use help. But hey, that's just a side note. So that he could leave, even though, and he worked for somebody that he used to, he knew these people who sign government contracts. Very telling, very telling. They know a lot more that they're saying, and they're also part of the distraction as well. I'm not saying they're not telling you the truth, but that guy knew it was coming. He's known all along. And I mean, it is what it is. People donated, and it's just, I think of so many other people that could use, clearly these people in North Carolina and in Kentucky, they could use the money. I don't know. It's just my personal opinion on that. I just find it odd. But anyway, he left. And he's off exploring whatever off of everyone's dime. And that's just interesting to me when there's bigger things going on in the world. So these people who are on these platforms, who are ex-government, who signed 30-year contracts, or who worked for this and worked for that, they know what's up. They know what's really going on behind all this stuff. I'm just saying. And they're only giving you nibbles of this and nibbles of that instead of just being honest with you. You got one guy that renamed all these planets out there. Like, he knows the truth. He knows the truth. You think he's going to tell you that? No. So we got to do our own research. And this is, history repeats itself. It shows us what's going to come again. And it is. I mean, back in the Noah, that was Enlil that flooded. That was Enlil that flooded the earth. And here we go again. We're in the same cycle again. Because, we do have Nibiru here. They are here for the gold. So they're going to flood out whatever they can for the gold. Or whatever else they need. Whatever. Because Mother Earth has a lot of minerals, materials that these other interstellar beings or whatever's going on here need. They need it. At the cost, they don't care about the cost of humanity. They don't. And those of you who keep saying this is God, man, it's not. It's not. Not a loving God anyway. Very judgmental, like greedy one that's after gold. It's after gold. That's who's here right now. So I just thought that was really interesting how this connected to Gordon Cooper and his mission for JFK, and where he was marking off lands on his map, and then these floodings have taken, all these, other floodings have happened, these storms have happened throughout history in the certain areas, and Kentucky's been coming up a lot personally, just on my path to pay attention to divinely, and I've been showing a lot about Kentucky through Planet Weird, and it's connected, and it's very much connected. in the supernatural, and the, it's interstellar. It's interstellar, and it's connected. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it at all. And you're going to see more and more is going to be revealed. If if you're paying attention, and if you're not, I don't know. Have a nice day. Keep your head in the sand and have a good one on that one. For the rest of us who are paying attention, this is just more. The storm was actually the cover up. The storm was the distraction. The storm was also a piece of it as well. But it was really to cover up. Blowing some dams up there. Just saying, just like when Louisiana had Katrina. Same thing. So there's something in Louisiana or in the earth there that was worth that to these things to wipe out some of humanity. And I love how it says we're promised we wouldn't be flooded again. I'm really going to stick with we were promised that we wouldn't be flooded all at the same time. But when we have a map that shows us what the lands are going to look like after the fact, the specific areas, and the only things that are showing through are the ridges of these dragons, which is pure crystal. Because remember, your body, when you're not in your body anymore and it breaks down, your body has crystals. It has fluids in it. Has actually has Christ in it. Your spinal cord fluid is Christ, and it is. So they're doing that here on Earth. They're pulling her resources, and that would be the Dracos. When they come in on a Titan, they drain all its resources, and the only way to get rid of them is to well, Mother Earth's going to take care of that. And unfortunately, we're going to be caught in the crossfire of that. Or, maybe not. Maybe something happens to a lot of us that we're not caught in the crossfire. But there's no loving God that would ever wipe out a human being for gold. Just saying. So I find it interesting. I'm not saying they're not getting messages, but like, what, I don't know what God you're listening to that you would ever think that God would want you to be hurt and harm you and put fear in you. It's I feel sad for people who really believe that. And hey, you can feel sad for me that I don't believe that. I'm absolutely okay with that. It really upsets me that I'm hearing these people who are getting these messages all written out from God, saying that this was an act of God. No, that was an act of the devil, because that was pure evil, what just happened and what continues to happen. Florida looks like a third world country. I don't know if you ever seen Florida. I mean, I watch Florida Skywatcher. He's, boots on the ground, real person filming what's really going on there. Or anybody else that lives in Florida, actually. Looks like a third world freaking country. You think anyone's going to go in there and help them rebuild? No. These people in Kentucky and West Virginia and Georgia, what other state am I missing here? Anyway, do you think anyone's going to come in there? No, they're going to grab the land. It's highly disturbing. And I'm going to listen to someone who actually lives there saying what's going on and what they already experienced. And history seems to repeat itself in this realm of existence. And we got to be smarter. I don't know how you can, a flood is a flood. There's no way around it. There's more to come, though. And there is. For whatever reason, now is the time. And Atlas was mentioned in Gordon Cooper. There was actually a flight, and here we are. Atlas just went over the eastern seaboard. These are prophetic signs. Prophecy. We are definitely in prophecy, and it's connected to this 3D world of wanting land grabs for the gold and whatever other minerals that Nibiru or whoever else is here trying to grab. Because it goes right back to the Sumerians. Personally, for me, they came here for the gold. The gold for their atmosphere, or maybe even more than we even know, because, you know, we're only getting a smidge of the true story. When I was listening to that lady's video, like that Gordon Cooper popped right in my mind. I'm like, that's what he was doing. That's why he was sent on that mission. And of course, you know, they named the missions after this. They have weird, you know how that works with these missions. And you know, and then JFK cuts a ribbon. I don't know, man. It's a messed up world. Ohio River floods. I mean, these are precursors of, like, get ready. It's because it's gonna happen again. The Ohio River's gonna flood again. Of course it is. Of course it is. When was this? Let's read this for a second. The Louisville area has been subject to flooding for thousands of years. Low-lying land along the Ohio River is covered frequently in the winter and spring. Ohio River floods typically occur over the days or weeks, and waters rise relatively slowly. Louisville is also prone to flash flooding from interior streams, meaning people friggin' screwing around with it. Let's be real here. Flash floods can also occur during the dam levee failure. Boom, right there. Large expansion on flatlands, lowlands, former swamplands can be quick to flood and slow to drain. Flash flooding often occurs over a short period. We know how that really works. This was back in 1937, after the Great Depression. They seem to do that. They created a depression in 2020. They created one. And here we are again. 1937, the worst Ohio River flood in history covered 60% of the city of Louisville and 65 square miles of Jefferson County outside the old city. About 23,000 people were evacuated. Damages totaled more than $1 billion in today. So there's a lot of gold in this area, clearly. And probably more things we don't even know about. In January 1937, rains began to fall throughout the Ohio River Valley, eventually triggering what is known today as the Great Flood of 1937. Overall, total precipitation for January was 4 times its normal amount in the area surrounding the river. In fact, there were only 8 days in January when Louisville Station recorded no rain. The swollen of the river, rapid rise. They're going to do it again. It's coming. They're going to do it again. They're already showing us. So hang on. Be prepared. Do what you got to do to protect yourself. Because it's coming. They're telling us right here. It's coming. What was it, 100 years for North Carolina? 100 years before that was the flood? And here we are 100 years later. These things work in cycles. And probably, you know, Nibiru was here then, you know. Clearly, they set up shop here. They're in and out of here all the time. They never really left, but that sun comes back in through the realm. 1884, nearly the entire country experienced above average rainfall. The heavy rains and melting snow caused major problems along the Ohio River. Ohio River, people. 1964, 1883, 1913. So there's a trend. It's not a fun 97. I mean, even here, here on the East Coast, up like the Vermont flood. So there's definitely something going on here. 87 counties, 120 counties in Kentucky, federal disaster at 97. Kentucky is like, been a lot of messages about Kentucky. 1980s, 1964, 1978. We had the blizzard of 78 here. So there's a lot, there must be a lot of gold in Kentucky. A lot of stuff that we don't even know about. People in Kentucky probably know about it, though. So this is telling us This is telling us right here. There's a map that shows us history is going to repeat itself again. And it already is happening. Heed the warning, people. Heed the warning. And it's connected to Gordon Cooper back in the 60s, orbiting the Earth, marking off areas on a map, along with secretly mapping off his own little treasure maps of sunken ships that had gold on it, that they have now done a TV show called Cooper's Treasure. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. See it or don't. See it or don't. But no people, no souls deserve that. It isn't an act of God. That's an act of greed. It's an act of greed, deception. And there's no coincidence this election is going on where your vote doesn't matter at all. Your vote means nothing, and all you're doing is feeding an energy. That's all you're doing. You think these people care about you? They don't, it's interesting. We don't know these things. And you're putting your trust in somebody. You have no idea who they are. Clearly they're shady as the day is long, and you think they're going to protect us and take care of us? They've proven over and over and over again that they don't give a crap about humanity. Right, recently has been enough proof for me, without the rest of it. They don't give a crap about humanity. That Camilla demon being, oh, here's $750 for you. As I let my little minion demons in the country, and they can drive around with no license. They don't need to be registered and insured either. And we don't mind that they're taking people's animals. That's telling. That's ritual. That's hoodoo voodoo stuff. And you live in a very supernatural world where these things go on, and they use a lot of 3D so that you keep thinking it's a three-dimensional thing instead of more of it's an interstellar supernatural, the battle of heaven and earth, battlefield earth. And there's proof right here. History keeps repeating itself. Believe it or don't. Peace out.